Hey, it's Sim Brown, and it is the Agency Growth Mastermind podcast. We're pointing the way for agencies going from 1 million to 10 million in revenue. We have an abundance mindset. A rising tide lifts all boats. We're talking to a lot of niched agencies in this series, and we're sharing as much value as possible. This is the mindset I go into every piece of content with. A lot of these agency podcasts are bad. They're really bad because they bring on people that have like a 2-person staff, and you're hearing about like Facebook ads for nonsense or something like that. So the idea here is to bring on people who have done this before, people that are over 1 million. And I would say our guest today has helped bring Conductor well over 1 million. Stephan Bajaio, the chief evangelist and co-founder at, drumroll please, Conductor. So
Hey, Tim,
Stephan.
thanks so much for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's going to be a great topic today. We are talking about how to create a motivating environment in remote environments and in office, right? So you've kind of been able to give us some tools and tactics here to do this at Hook Agency. And I kind of talked to you about the point of this podcast, which is just what levers could we pull in a company that we were trying to get from 1 million to 10 million. Yes, that's us. We're trying to do that right now. But also I think that there's other people that are trying to do this. And I feel like I really just don't have a scarcity mindset about this. I really feel like helping other agencies, and I've talked to a bunch of other agencies that are at the same level we're at right now. I feel like sharing is good, right? I feel like
Yeah, I mean,
more of us should be sharing.
I mean, listen, here's the thing. It's a green field out there, right? And I think people have to recognize that your win doesn't necessarily have to be someone's loss. Maybe because of RFPs and whatever else, people feel that competition. But in reality, there's room for lots of great businesses, right? So sharing the insights, the knowledge, those are I think really valuable things. I know from the SEO community, that's a pretty huge and standard thing that we do. Just to give a little background so that I don't come across as maybe for those who that may not know me, as Tim said, I'm Stephan Bajaio. I run I actually created the professional services arm of Conductor, which actually at one point I think it took about, I mean, I started with 2 kids straight out of school. And we grew it to about 65 international, like global professionals across the globe. So it was a pretty big undertaking. The size of many agency sizes in terms of people, but at the same time within a software company. So it's a pretty unique value proposition to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt like anything that we've done, and just a little history on the company. Conductor, founded about, well, in a previous life about 13 years ago, creates one of the first and largest enterprise software products on the market for search, builds that out to hundreds of millions of dollars in value, gets bought by WeWork, go through the acquisition process. That was interesting with WeWork, and then actually bought ourselves out of WeWork prior to WeWork going through all of the struggles it did with its CEO and so forth a while back. So really interesting ride, really interesting to see evolution of cultures, growth, and understanding. And I can remember back to the original days of kind of like scrappiness, not to say we're not today, but the scrappiness was much more to the bone when we were at that 1 million mark and trying to make our way up to 10 million. So happy to get into some of those ideas today of how you can perpetuate a better culture and ultimately how that leads to more money.
So this should apply to a lot of agencies, anyone under 10 million, I think. But there's like this, I want to imagine a earlier point, like if you were in a bad place, let's say culturally, you were in a position where you just didn't have enthusiasm on your team, and you felt people kind of, you felt the depletion. Now we all struggle with that a bit, but I want you to imagine for a second this team that's not energized at all. They're not even encouraging each other. the clear, maybe you're good at business, you got clarity around those KPIs, you're a really smart guy, you know, but your team is just, the energy is not there and there's less enthusiasm. What are some things, let's say you're at that 1 million mark, that you would do if you were to join that company to help increase the buy-in
Sure.
of the employees?
Yeah. So I think one, you got to start thinking from day one about your hiring, right? It's who you hire, and you always should be thinking about that as you think about ebbs and flows and growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, you talked about like being down, but I think one of the core elements of someone's, uh, of the teams we build have to be, I will always choose passion over talent. Now, I know that may be controversial, but I believe that passion can carry people much further, and I can't teach you passion. I can teach you certain aspects and skills and hard skills. So when you look at individuals and you try to figure out, why are they going to work an extra hour? Why do they get up out of bed in the morning? When COVID has struck and the world feels like it's ending, what gets them out of bed to work? Is it a paycheck? That may be great for your sales folks and that may be motivating for them. But in reality, I've never assumed that we would be the ones to pay the most. And I've said that to people. I said, I don't think I can give you in an interview process necessarily the biggest paycheck. And if that's really ultimately what you want, then you're probably not coming to the right place. But rather, if I can help you grow, because in all fairness, the investment you make as an employee into a company is actually your time, and you will never get that back. You can always make more money, but you can never make more time. So, knowing that that's the most valuable asset a person can provide you with, their time, you need to find a way to ensure that you're enthusiastically drawing that time out of them. If they're punching the clock like it's 9 I start and 5 I end, they probably aren't enthusiastic about their job. You haven't probably given them the incentives. And those incentives can be monetary, those incentives can be a lot of different ways, but you need to understand the motivation, just like you should be doing the same thing with your clientele, but you have to understand the motivation
Yeah.
behind why someone's doing something,
Yeah.
right? Like that is the key. So find out. My number one thing, you just put me on a team, they're not doing so hot. My number one thing to do, I want to understand everyone's motivation. If I can
Yeah.
take the time to understand the motivation, I know where they're coming from. When they're coming from, I can find common ground. If I can find common ground, I can understand a line on the horizon they're trying to achieve. And if I can understand a line on the horizon they're trying to achieve, I can help set direction. I can help understand if we're all going in different directions, it's probably not going to work, right? So thinking through that, understanding the team dynamic, but also understanding what drives the individuals. Because until you care about those people as people, if you just see them as numbers on your balance sheet, you have completely missed the point. You will have attrition problems. The next guy who offers a better paycheck or a better benefit, this person's out the door. So build that loyalty, build that trust. In fact, at Conductor, I've always told people, don't give me a 2-week notice. Give me 2-month notice. Now, I know that sounds crazy. And actually, Seth, our CEO, wrote this article called 2 Weeks Notice is Bullshit. Just type it in and you'll find it. It's really good. But it's this concept of like, if you build real trust with your employee that you're not going to fire them because they're looking, if they have dissatisfaction, they're doing you a favor and letting you know that.
Yeah.
Because the moment they drop out on you, you're kind of screwed, right? Like, especially in an agency, you were depending on them to fulfill for the client. So being able to, and Tim should never have let me just go off the chain. He's got to pull me back now.
I got something to add here.
Yeah,
Real quick.
go ahead.
So one thing that we do that I like we have like our 3 months check-ins. We do weekly one-on-ones with your manager and things like that. But the 3 month check-in, a question we ask do you have what you need in regards to perks and compensation and autonomy and freedom? And I like the question of, do you have what you need in regards to significance? Because I think significance, and this, sometimes people look at me like I'm nuts. Like, what is this, a cult?
Right.
Why are you talking to me about meaning, brother? But I feel as though I need that. I think I project it onto employees sometimes, because I need that in my work. I need significance. I need there to be something I'm changing for the better in the world in my day-to-day life. Otherwise, I'm pissing away hours to an employer that barely cares about me. And I know that it's hard. I know it's hard to have significance in work, even as an entrepreneur, even as a person running a business. It's like sometimes this feels pointless. I struggle with doubt, and that doubt it also enforces faith. Once, we have moments where we positively affect somebody, a company's life, people's lives in a company, whatever, and in the employees' lives. I think for me, the most significance I get is when I see people growing on my team.
Yeah.
So like, I'm very motivated by that. And that's partly why I don't need as much profit right now to like have a company and to do all this hard work. And even though it's tiring, and for them, what is that for them? Like you're saying, like, their long-term goal, their vision for their life, and then you can be there to support it. And you can also see where they're getting their significance from. You know what I mean? Like, if
Yeah, and
you
you're not always the
dream,
answer too. Like that's the other thing to remember. Like we tend to be kind of egotistical with the way that we like, with the way we deal with employees. We're like, oh yeah, think about how a business is actually run. It's kind of screwed up when you get down to the core of it, right? You will pay more for a net new employee than you will a current employee. But yet a current employee knows all your systems, all your methods, is more reliable, is more dependable, and probably more predictable in
yeah,
regards to what you're doing. So you choose to take a risk on a
yeah,
net new employee at a higher cost
yeah.
than you do a current one, which in itself is backwards.
And
Also,
it's 33%. I like, don't use
yeah.
this against me, my employees that listen to this, but it's 33% of an employee on average to go out and hire a new one. And the
Oh yeah,
higher the skill set, the like more percentage of
absolutely.
it's crazy that
And
like, yeah,
you're not even thinking about like, and in that time is also your time, right?
yeah,
It's your time hiring, it's your risk. There's a risk factor
yeah,
involved with it. There's all of that. So attrition is costly. We know this, right?
yeah.
Here's a few things we've done that I think can be really helpful. One,
Good. I like
flip
this.
your org chart backwards. Anytime you show your org chart, you're at the bottom, not the top. It's a V-shaped org structure. You are here to support your directors. Your directors are your VPs. Your VPs are here to support the directors. The directors are here to support the managers, and the managers are here to support anyone who's not a
Yeah,
manager. Okay, and it's
yeah,
always built that way. And the point there is, it's subconscious, but it's important. You are setting the standard that leaders, and this is another one. Simon Sinek. I watch this almost religiously every single year. He has a talk called, and we can probably put it in the comments wherever we post this. Great leaders eat last, I believe it's called, and it is phenomenal. And it's or leaders eat last, and it is something I watch religiously. It's about 45 minutes. I highly recommend you watch it.
yeah,
It's this idea of selflessness. It's this idea that it will come to you, right? Success will come, but it won't be by forcing it down the throats of others. So you need to rise people up. You need to find joy and satisfaction in more than just the bank book at the end of the day,
yeah.
because that will fluctuate. What won't, though, is your ability to help an employee in a time of need, your ability to be there for them through thick and thin, your ability not to have to lay people off in COVID. Like, that's huge,
Mm-hmm,
right? That takes, sorry, there's no other term for it. It takes balls, right?
mm-hmm.
Real leadership doesn't come out when things are wonderful and rosy. It's easy to be a good leader when the the charts are going up and to the right and the money's flowing in and you can have the holiday parties and everyone can congregate and all that stuff. You don't get points for being a great leader in that time. You
Mm-hmm,
get points for being a great leader when shit happens.
mm-hmm.
When half your clients decide they're going to walk out because they can't pay because of COVID, or when in our case, when you go through an acquisition and then a re-exiting, right, all within the span of 2 years. Those are things that can be, they take a toll on your culture, they take a toll on your mindset, they take a toll on a lot of things. So don't let that, I would say, like, definitely don't allow yourself to be the moment you're believing your own press and you think like, oh, we're so important and we're this and we're that, you're not the humble leader you should be. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that comes across people know disingenuous action. And at that point, then this is just a transactional relationship. And that's fine if that's what you want to be as an agency. But 9 times out of 10, I could take your people away from you because I have a better culture, and I have more incentive in their future and can get that across in an interview than you can in holding on to them in a place where they don't feel like they're getting the growth and the
Yeah,
care that they should.
that's good. I want to throw two things out there. One, we did that flip the org chart, and an employee in an interview like 2 weeks ago or something talked about that in a positive, enthusiastic way to a new employee,
It's awesome.
talking about the flipped org chart and us. And they said, and Tim and Bia consider themselves servants and of the team, and they really lived that. And that was a cool moment for me, and certainly goes back to you telling me to do that. So I appreciate it. You mentioned how there's an incentive for growth. And I felt like you were saying for the company has an incentive to grow the employee. Is that what I was hearing you say?
Absolutely.
And talk to
Absolutely.
me about, how do you grow that, right? Like, we are starting to involve other people in management.
Sure.
And we're trying to get that vibe going where they care a lot about these employees' growth and that they're excited about their growth. But it's difficult, right? Some employees, it can be it's just they get tired. You know, when you focus on yourself, sometimes you get a little tired because it's like, you're not exactly how far you want to be. So like, especially when you're in an earlier in your career. So it's a little draining for the person trying to help them grow, because I tell my employees, I'm like, I want you to bring successes. I want you to bring successes into this meeting. Like if we're doing one-on-ones, I want you to tell me why you're what you did well this week. I don't need to hear always about what you're doing poorly. Frankly, it's kind of selfish because I want to, I want it to be a positive discussion. I don't want it to always be negative. But how do you help an employee? Like, how do you help people that are trying to grow other people on the team? How do you help them have that incentive? You know what I mean? How do you help your other leaders on your team with you have incentive to grow those employees?
It definitely starts with who you're hiring, right? Like you have to have people that care about growth. If you are hiring people that just kind of want to coast, in all fairness, that's not a person that has like enthusiasm, which is why I said passion is like a fundamental core, right? I could take a second rate person at a job who's passionate and we can make them a first rate one, right? But I can't make the person who's apathetic do anything more, right? They got to want to grow. They got to want to be like better, right? They have to want to grow. Like if you're going to spend so much time at work, then you got to find a way to make that valuable to them beyond just the paycheck. So how do you do that, right? You do that through understanding them, right? Understanding the motivating factors like we talked about before. Not just understanding the motivating factors, but also understanding what their goals are. And if they don't know their goals, help them establish small ones, realistic ones that they can. You can't, Tim, right now go to everyone in your company, no offense to Hook, and tell them all you're going to be managers tomorrow. Okay. Now, the misconception of management, by the way, and this is something I want to make super clear because this is like another flawed, message, flawed model of like what's wrong with business today. It is an assumption that you need to be a manager and have managerial duties in order to grow up, quote unquote, in an account or in a company to then make more money and be more important. There are individual contributors that are incredibly valuable throughout this world that become experts in their field and are renowned and needed, and they do not manage one person. Okay.
And they're not excited by it. They're not motivated by it. So
they're not,
there's
it's
just
not
a
their
different type of
motivation. So if
person.
someone's motivation is to make more money is why they want to manage, they're not supposed to be managing. If someone's motivation to manage is to grow others, like you said, Tim, boom, you're my manager. I love it. That's what I want. I want someone who's going to have an investment in the growth of the people. I just spoke to someone who just started reporting to me the other day, and I asked him exactly that. I said, why do you enjoy management? Like, what aspects of management do you like? And he said exactly what I wanted to hear, not because I wanted to hear it, but because I knew the guy, and he said, I really enjoy helping people grow. And so I turned around and asked him, well, what aspects of management do you want to learn better? And he explained to me certain aspects he wanted to understand better. He wanted to understand how to run a P&L more. He wanted to understand how to establish some processes better. He wanted to understand risk mitigation. So those were all things I can work with. Like, I now
Yeah.
know the guy has the passion. I just got to help the guy figure out those aspects, talk about those,
Yeah.
go through my experience. And again, you have to be a selfless leader. Tim said it before. Selflessness and servant leadership is 100% the right way. And you can argue with me on this. I'm more than happy to arm wrestle with anybody verbally on this. But I believe that if you do that, and if you give of yourself in a selfless manner with the intention of helping others, it will, it will help, and it will always come back to you in a wonderful way. Karmic or whatever, it will come back to you. You will run a business that other people want to be a part of because they want something more. People are not, ask very rich people whether they're happy. It will not be based on their bank accounts. Yeah, that's easier said than done for those who don't have it. I laugh at people who say that all the time. I'm like, yeah, if my bank account was a lot more, then I'd be happier too. But in reality, man, that's not ultimately what you could be extremely rich and have a shit job, and you're not
Yeah.
happy every day.
I want to do a little sidetrack real quick here
Sure.
for the folks that are not in managerial positions, because yes, we're talking to mostly people that are, but frankly, there's also like this craftsman path, right? Like, you're talking about people who don't naturally feel motivated by that
Sure.
they're not going to get energy from that they're, but a lot of those people are really good at their job, and they're actually like we have people on our team, there are people on every team that like are really badass at their
Oh
job
yeah.
that then can go hard. And there should be, you shouldn't, you don't just have these tiers of like management and then craftsmen, and then, it's not like that. There can be craftsmen up here to,
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
like it's like, let's just talk about like, like salary. Like there can be an overlap in the, manager and craftsman salary stuff. It's okay as long as that person is like a ton of value in their craft.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, and I use craft in like technician craft,
Yeah,
like
they're like the
people getting the
Ronin.
work
They're the
done. Yeah.
Ronin or the samurai, like they don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be running a team of samurais. They can
Yeah.
literally be that ninja or that, that one
Yeah.
Ronin who's like such a badass that like
Yeah.
you want them on any team,
And
right?
some of those
Everyone
people,
would
like, you're
clamor to
kind of
have them.
lucky to have them because they're so good. They almost should have their own company in certain ways. Like, I don't know. I guess I love entrepreneurship. So I think about these people like you could make it on your, you could go out there and just fend for yourself, and you could maybe make a little more money or whatever. But I think that they're grateful to have a team that, like with their own leader. They're grateful to have, they don't have to do all that other business acumen stuff. So you're lucky to have those people when they exist. And I think I devalued that a little bit for a while
I think a lot of
because,
us do as
yeah,
entrepreneurs because we don't understand it.
yeah. And I feel as though it's really important not to understate the importance of those. And then also, I guess it's just different things they have to grow on, like I do think that some of those folks need to work on their emotional intelligence. That is something, but it's different because I like, if I don't force you into those situations where you have to like have people reporting to you or whatever, then those, they do better
Well,
anyways.
here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think you need to look at those folks.
Yeah.
And if you're one of those folks listening, this is not a knock. So this is actually
Yeah.
quite the opposite.
I could easily be one of those if I didn't like get forced by
Dude,
entrepreneurship
I've been one
into,
of
yeah.
those. I've been
Yeah.
an individual
Yeah.
contributor. I've been an executive. I've been an individual contributor. I've been a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you this. Um, it's just whether or not you enjoy that, right? I would rather
Yeah.
be in the managerial side because I actually enjoy
Yeah.
that, and that growth
Yeah.
gives me happiness. So that's
Mm-hmm.
different. But like the people who want to be individual contributors, and I've had a bunch of them on my teams that stay individual contributors, and we call them aces. Like they become really, really good at what they do. The key
Mm-hmm.
there, though, is like that they understand that you give them a good path of what measurement and what greatness looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes we measure managers by their team's performance. So we have a metric by which we can say, how's your team growing? How are they performing as a team? And so that reflects on the manager. But yet you don't have that when you're dealing with an individual contributor. You have them. And that year one and year two are going to be different. And then year three is different too. So how are you ensuring they're growing between year one and year two and year three?
Mm-hmm.
They also should want to grow. Are you making sure that they are reflecting on that growth? Because it's too easy for someone who's an individual contributor to just be like, I'm just doing the same job over and over and over again. You
Yeah.
have to find ways to show them growth, to remind them of their growth, to actually celebrate that growth and view it, right. So if you're not, it's almost like, and this is going to sound a little controversial, help your individual contributor continue to build their resume. You should
Mm-hmm.
always review what are the bullet points you've added to your resume, and not just
That's
resume like
good. That's
literally the
good.
resume. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
you to add it to the physical resume, because the physical resume's got to be some dumb, like, little count the words to make sure it's not taking up too many lines, blah, whatever, get
Mm-hmm.
over that. I'm talking about, have we
Substance.
taken stock of all the clients? Do you have a folder of all the feedback from the clients? Do you have the failures that they did in year one that you can then show that they fixed
Mm-hmm.
in year two, and
Yeah.
go back and show them? Do you remember when this screwed up and how bad
Yeah.
you felt? But now, do you realize that
Mm-hmm.
you've taken that on 3 more times, 5 more times, and you've killed it every single time? That is recognition of growth. And if you make someone feel that and recognize that and reflect on that, they then internalize it and become more satiated by it. Not satiated to the point they don't want to grow more. They should hopefully not feel satisfied, but rather say, oh, wow, that's amazing. I didn't take the time to do that. And by the way, if you're a manager or a peer of one of those individuals and you provide that as a gift to them, it is an amazing gift when you do this. This individual will now come back and be really grateful for your having taken the time out of, even if you're their manager, taking the time to point out their growth. I
Mm-hmm.
often have to remind people that, have you taken a moment? I've even had to remind my good friend and CEO of the company, Seth. I'm like, do you? I sometimes have to say to him, like, have you ever taken stock and stopped to remember? Because he's such an entrepreneur and keeps moving, and it's like another challenge, another challenge, another challenge. You don't stop and reflect, and you don't realize that, like, holy crap, look how much you've accomplished. Because people that are really good, they want to just keep going, right? And but you have to have them stop and, like, learn and take
Mm-hmm.
from that. And that's not, you should do that with your peers, you should do that with your boss if you have that kind of relationship. You should do that as much as you, and you should definitely do that for yourself, by the way. If you're
Yep.
not doing that for yourself, you're doing yourself a massive disservice.
Yep. That's huge. I have a real quick like housekeeping question here. People
Sure.
don't. There's never like a pejorative uh, tone in the organization towards the aces that ever comes up.
What do you mean by that?
Like I'm just wondering, like, does it ever take a weird tone? Like I love that idea of aces. I'm wondering, like,
I
how
mean,
do you
that's just
make?
that, that's not like we call them aces in a review, right? But it's not
Oh,
like I'm saying, oh, Steve's the ace. Like, Steve knows what Steve is, and he's great at what he does, and
so
he's
you don't
world
have a
class
like a
at it.
name that you guys refer to those people for
No,
real
no, it would
amongst each
just,
other?
the
Yeah,
titles would kind of go in those directions of
yeah.
specialists, and
Specialist.
yeah, a specialist might be the way. But here's the thing about titles at agencies:
Yeah.
they're so wacky and wonked out that, like, you never know who is
Ain't
what,
that the
and, like,
truth?
yeah, it's
I feel
like,
like people, that's like something that I have this weird habit of going on to Glassdoor and reading all the shitty reviews of places because I want to learn from like failures of like
sure.
agencies like us. And that's something that comes up a lot. The titles don't mean shit.
Well, they don't. And, like, in reality, I mean, listen, again, titles are like paychecks. They're great when you have them, but ultimately you become accustomed to them. Like, you'll become accustomed, to a salary after a while that's more than what you make. And as much as you'll say, "Oh no, I wouldn't. If I had an extra $1,000 a month, that'd make a huge difference," and so forth. But you know what? I guarantee you, after 6, 7, 8 months of having an additional thousand in your bank account, you would still find a way to spend it ultimately, or you would
Mm-hmm.
find a way to incorporate it into your homeostasis, and you would not feel that different. And
Yeah.
that's why people still ask for more year after year after year, right? Because we constantly feel not everyone needs more year after year, but
Lifestyle freeze. You
yeah,
solve
yeah, yeah.
that with a lifestyle freeze. That's what
It,
somebody told me, where you literally like, what'd you spend this year? If you felt good, you know what I mean? You felt good, like
yeah.
this was a decent amount of spending. Like a lot of times you like hit that point where it's like, I don't know, it was like 140 or something per household or something. There's a number where once you hit it, you can't go past it and have that much better of maybe in New York City
Like,
you can, but
yeah,
like,
I was gonna say in New York,
yeah.
bro, you're not even close to
Okay,
the
no,
number, but
you
like,
know what I'm saying
yeah,
though. You know what I'm
but
saying.
I get it.
There's
It's
a
like a law of
number.
diminishing
Yeah.
returns, and now you're spending on dumb
But
stuff.
you could
Like,
just like my wife and I just said, like for the next 5 years, so it's 4 more years, we're gonna freeze at the same amount so that we can see
save
that
up, and
difference.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I love that. I mean, I think that's great. Again, I'm not meaning to say money doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
does, and I get it. You want to get paid
Yeah.
for the time that you spend, but ultimately, again, we all could have gone down different routes that would have paid us more for our time. Were you happy? No one that I know has ever been on their deathbed and thought about how much money they made, right? They thought about the time and how they spent it. They
Yeah.
thought about what they accomplished. They don't think about like the bank book. You won't know your bank balance that day unless you died while extracting money at the ATM. But like essentially like that's not what's going to define you, you
Yeah.
know?
My brother's a minister. He would always go down and like he'd just sit in the funerals. I feel like it's a good
Where is
mindset
this
though.
going, Tim?
This is good. This is good
All right,
because
take us.
that mindset of, this is that memento, what is it, memento mori or whatever, like remember you must die kind of thing.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that idea. Like, and so I've heard somebody else like reads, what are those called in the paper? Uh, Reads the memorials of people in the paper
Oh,
every morning
obituaries.
or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just that
I mean, I think
mindset of
that might
like,
be a little bit macabre, but like
yeah, it's
ultimately,
macabre, but ultimately, like I will say, when I've gone to a funeral of somebody close to me and like just thinking about legacy,
yeah. I
it
mean, listen,
definitely shifts your mindset.
you've
Like
got to.
I like the way that shifts my mindset.
It's
That's
it's
yeah,
it's definitely like we were even talking about this before we got on the podcast.
yeah,
I told Tim I just recently had a little girl, Mila. She's amazing. She wakes up every day and from naps with a smile. She's about to turn 4 months tomorrow, and like it has, I'm older. I'm 41 now, 42. 41 when I had her, and it has shifted my entire life and perspective. Like it's sad to say you have to have like major life events to recognize these things, but like your entire priorities, your understanding of the world, again, she smiles just for being here.
yeah,
Are you smiling for being here? Like that's the question you got to
yeah,
ask yourself, is what makes you smile? And if it's if it's listen, if it's materialistic things, that's fine. You're going to get some satisfaction out of that, and I'm not going to judge you for it. That's good on
yeah,
you. I know plenty of salespeople made plenty of money and other things, and they've gone down
yeah,
routes. As long as you're happy doing what you're doing, like, good on you. But if you're not happy, you're in this, there's a reason why society has this mantra, or this kind of what is it, just like a general term of like, oh, dead end job, and oh
mhm,
no, another Monday. It's like, no, I got to tell you, I have had many, 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 many a Sunday night where I cannot sleep. And it is not because I am scared about the next week. It's because I am actually excited about what's going to happen. If
mhm,
you're not excited about what's happening on Monday, that sucks.
mhm,
Like, that sucks. And you're only going to have so many Mondays.
yeah,
So find something that excites you. I know that's easier said than done, but like, find something that excites you, and then make sure that the place that you do it recognizes you as an individual contributor, or as a manager, or as whatever you should be, in order to do as much of that as possible,
yeah.
as often as possible, with as many people who care about the same thing as possible.
I like it. And I think let's end on that, Stefan. I really appreciate you chatting. Is there somewhere you want to direct people listening to connect with you? If
I
there's a good
mean,
spot.
yeah, absolutely. Hit me up on LinkedIn. It's Stephan Bajaio, Stephan Bajaio. Feel free to hit me up there if you're interested in hearing more of my madness. I have a website by the same name, so feel free to search that on Google, and hopefully I'll be the #1 result from there. If not, I have
Yeah,
a problem. And yeah, good stuff.
can't thank you enough for spending the time. And just so people know out there, Stephan has spent several times with my wife and I, kind of just helping us. I'm not trying to like get you signed up for a bunch of consulting gigs here, but I it's just been generous of you to spend some time with us. So I just want to recognize you for that.
It's been my humble pleasure. Like, again, I don't do it for anything else than just helping good people. If you guys know Bia and Tim, they're amazing. I think they're wonderful people. They're great marketers. This is not a pitch. They didn't pay me to say this. It's just, I think they're giving back to the community. This podcast is just one of those examples. And I think they try to do that with both the constructs of their company as well as their time and their talent. So, and their treasure. So, I would say the more you can engage with them, please do. Check out conductor.com. We've got a great enterprise platform. If anyone's in the business for enterprise content and SEO platforms, come check it out. But either way, any way I can help, people reach out with thoughts, questions, even advice for me. Tell me, maybe I should shut up more on these things. So I appreciate
No, it's been so good, man. And there's always good nuggets. I was like trying to take notes during. I'm like, I'm going to be probably watching this again. I can take notes then, but yeah,
well,
man.
I appreciate it. I kind of go into like a daze, and now I'm going to pick up and say, what the hell did I just say?
Oh, it's good stuff. No, there's some really, really good nuggets in there. So I think people will appreciate that. Thank you, sir.